In the background, you can see that PresenterMedia website open. For today's webinar, I am going to be using Internet Explorer. That's just because so many folks are still using Explorer. Personally, I prefer to use Chrome. A quick note, if you ever go into any of our items and you don't see the customizer, that's this little teal guy at the bottom. If you ever don't see that, it's because your Flash player is out of date. So that means you need to do a quick update for your Flash player, and then you'll be able to see that customizer. Chrome automatically does its own Flash player updates, so if you're using Google Chrome for your internet browser, you'll always have that customizer at the bottom. Today I'm looking at, like I said, combining animations. For this, I don't need to necessarily have the whole web page open. I can actually do this all from right within PowerPoint. This is one of the templates that I've been working on, and I'm just calling it the interactive topics. It's not live yet. It's still in its infancy, I guess, if you want to look at it like that. So for this particular project, I'll say, that I'm working on, I made it so you can click on topic 1 and it'll pull out a link to the right, and then that goes all the way down. You can then click on the collapse button and everything will collapse back up, and then it hides again. Obviously this would be the same for all the rest of the topics. So this is just one of the things that we are working on developing for later projects. I will be working in this template just because it's a nice blank, easy template to work with. The first thing I'm going to do is add a very simple shape. I'm just going to add a square. And next I'm going to give it an animation. Now, if you're not familiar with how animations work in PowerPoint, anything without an animation is assumed to be on the slide all the time. So by giving an item an animation, you're changing those rules. So if I say I want this square to come in as a fade, now the square won't come into the slide until I click during slideshow mode. When it starts to get interesting is when you start looking at combining these different effects. So now the square will fade in. But let's say we want the square to fade in and we want it to move across the screen and we want it to change in size. You can do all three of these at the same time, all based on the same trigger. If I go to add animation, once I already have a single animation, I can go up to add animation, and at this point I can add additional elements of animation to this square. Now you can't have two entrance effects at the same time because obviously the object cannot enter twice. Once it enters, it's there. But what you can do is you can add, we'll say, a spin effect. Okay, fine, now we'll have it spin. Now where do we want it to end up? We're going to add a motion path next. The motion path is going to determine that the square moves and where it ends up stopping at. PowerPoint 2013 is unique because it lets you see what the end path is, and it'll even allow you to kind of line it up with your ruler and things like that in the slide before you commit to the final location of the motion. So if you look on the right hand side in our animation pane, you can see we have a green star, that's the fade in effect. Then we have an orange star, that's the spin, and then we have this green and red dot connected by a black line. That's our motion path. If we multi-select these two objects at the bottom and we tell them both to start with previous, you can play this and you can actually see how the box will spin and then go all the way down. Now once you actually combine the animations on here, you can do so many different things. You can, if you wanted to, you could have it where it displays text inside of it. So let's say we have our box and we want to have a text box display right across the screen, and we want the square to be wiping across that text box and have it come in. So I'm just going to put welcome to PresenterMedia, and then I'm going to move my box so my motion path is pretty much going straight across those words. I will now apply a wipe animation and change it to be from the left, and also set that to start with the previous. So now as the square is rolling across the screen, it's going to be uncovering, or at least that's how it'll look, is uncovering the text box beneath. So if we play this, we just have to figure out what our timing will be. Make sure our square is in the front. And if you notice, the text came in a little too fast. This is because the motion path has what's called smooth starting and smooth ending on. That basically means you have a very nice gradual acceleration before the motion path hits its top speed, and then a gradual deceleration. So if we get rid of that, you'll just see how it now moves straight across the screen. We'll see if that helps it at all. It's close, just not quite there yet. We'll give it a 1/4 second delay. And there we go. So this is just a way, like I said, that you can learn to be able to combine multiple animations in PowerPoint and be able to start creating real relationships between different objects in PowerPoint. Some questions that we had from yesterday. Are our templates available to upload to Adobe Connect webinars? I've not had the opportunity to work in Adobe Connect extensively, but from what I've understood, Adobe Connect likes to use Flash for their preferred method of program. So all of our video backgrounds are available as Flash files. You can replace any of the video backgrounds in our templates with the Flash versions, so it'll be able to work in Connect. WebEx copes about the same as GoToWebinar, Sean. I've used both, and I've played through both of them, and from what I can tell, it has something to do with how it tries to stream the animation. Kind of the same idea as it trying to stream live video. Sometimes it's easier if it just records the video and then you play it back later. So WebEx, for those of you who are not familiar, is another webinar program very similar to GoToWebinar or Adobe Connect. If, Sean, you did ask about WebEx, we had one person yesterday who asked about using our game show toolkit. We had a person ask if the interactivity of the game show would work in WebEx, and we were able to determine that yes, it will. In the background here we have our game show toolkit. If you haven't had the opportunity to use one of our game show or one of our interactive templates, I can't recommend them enough. The artists work extremely hard to create these templates, and they're a lot of fun once you have them playing. It gives your audience the ability to really interact with your presentation. The game show toolkit, when you're doing it, if you want to have something to compare it to, is it'll feel a little bit like, what's it called, Articulate Engage, I believe is the program. So you can actually have the interactivity. So one of the things I recommend folks do when they're working in our game show project is that instead of deleting the slides once you're all done with them, go ahead and just hide them. When you actually use the slideshow, you don't see any of this, but when you're in preview mode, you'll be able to utilize all of these various slides still. So it gives you the ability to keep going back and changing it if you need to. It just adds a little bit of versatility. Now, if you want to delete them, you can, but I can tell you as far as from a file standpoint, they're extremely small components of the presentation. They're not going to be taking up very much file size at all. This was the reset including X's, as you can tell by the title. And this one I just added one more animation to, so I had all of these items where you can click, and of course all the answers come up in the background. Click on the X's, but when you click on the reset, you'll notice that the X's fade out and then all of the questions come back into play. So that's working with our game show toolkit. Like I said, this is one of our really fun templates that we have. I'll go through a few more of my personal favorites. So our interactive templates that we have 2 pages worth of them. We have the Jeopardy style games, so you can pick your category and how much you want to bid for it, and then of course have the corresponding question level of difficulty. And then we have the chevron style, and the chevron is also going to be interactive where it's going to specific slides for you. If you folks ever have a webinar or any kind of interactive program that you're working on and you want your audience to be able to engage with you, the interactive panels toolkit is actually very simple as far as actual files go. So the pieces on here, each piece has its own hyperlink. So when you play this slideshow, when you click on any of these slides, it'll go to its corresponding endpoint. So you can click on any of these hyperlinks and it'll take you to that proper page, but because the layout is the same on all of them, you don't have a jerkiness between them, and you can really move backwards and forwards through all of these. And then when you want to, you just go back home by clicking on the back to home, and all of these hyperlinks are still in place for you to use. We also have the layout of this where it's going to be more of a row-based instead of a grid, and these are going to work the same way where you have the bullet style now. And again, when you click back to main on this one, it's going to bring you back to its primary grouping. Anita, when you are working in the interactive toolkit for the puzzles, you mean the one that's got the, what, 16 pieces on it, right? This guy right here, the puzzle piece reveal game. When you are using this particular piece, something that's really fun is you can change all the colors in these puzzle pieces. You can also add text to them, so they're numbered, and they're going to be linked to go to various locations within the slideshow. So if I go to open this, enable editing. All right, so now we have the actual puzzle in the background here. Anita, if you're wanting to change the color, we'll say, of these puzzle pieces, right-click and go down to Format Shape. If you're using PowerPoint 2007 or 10, this is going to open up a little pop-up box in the middle of your screen. If you're using 2013, it's going to open up a pane on the right-hand side. All right, so when you click on this, it's going to say Solid Fill, and it'll have the color. You can change the color just by changing the fill on that. Now, keep in mind that you can change this to be an image. I won't go through the whole process with you guys today. I do have a video tutorial on making your own custom puzzle in PowerPoint, and it uses our puzzle piece toolkit. But essentially, you can go to using a picture, insert a picture from a file. We'll grab this background image and tell it not to rotate. You can basically go through and essentially set each of these puzzle pieces to be part of that picture and go in and actually tell them what part of the picture you want it to be on. So you can actually end up making the picture scale properly to fit within this puzzle, making your own actual puzzle. So it could be a photograph, it could be any kind of graphic element that you may have. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to use the PresenterMedia Addin, it's available for free to our subscribers from our website. The add-in can be downloaded by going to the main page of our website, and then about halfway down on the left, you'll see it's next to the book and the pencil here. Click on that, and it'll take you to the download page. Click on the Install Add-in. Obviously, I'm probably already running it, so I don't need to download it again. You can download that, and it'll move it over to your computer so you can actually open all of our content from directly in PowerPoint. Once you have the add-in installed, you'll have a PresenterMedia tab at the top of your window. Click on Sign In, and then you'll get a pane open on the far right-hand side. PowerPoint 2008 and 2011 have different programming associated with them. So when you go into PowerPoint 2008 or 2011, instead of having the ribbon at the top, which is what we have for our PC version, you end up just having the menu of tabs, and then you have basically a drop-down, which is similar to the older style of PowerPoint. Personally, I love using our add-in. It makes life so much easier, especially if you are like me, where you are what I like to say a compulsive creative. So if I'm working on a project and I say, oh, I wish I had a picture of a basketball, I can just click and type in basketball, and I can get all sorts of different results from our website, and they're going to be put in right here. I can click insert, and it gets put right into my presentation. Now, if you do want to customize the color of anything that you download from our add-in, you can do that by clicking on the preview button first. And when you click on the preview button, it's going to open up a small preview of the image on the right. This segues nicely into working with our hue and color corrector. When you're changing the hue of an image, you're not changing just the normal color that you're seeing it, you're changing the undertones. So it's kind of like having two walls that are technically painted the same color, but if one has light hitting at a different angle, the wall can end up looking like it's a little bit different color. This is the same idea as that. So when you're going to change colors on objects, I'll find one that's a little bit more likely to be able to break a little bit for you. So this gal here, she's wearing a blue dress. So if we have a red dress instead of a blue, we may notice that the dress has too much brightness and it's hard to differentiate where the shadows should be on it. Notice that the saturation is turned all the way up and the brightness is only at about half. By reducing the saturation and increasing the brightness, we can give ourselves a color that is still technically the same hue, it just has different attributes applied to it. Just make sure you don't go too dark with that brightness because you'll see the shadows increase. Prezi is a flash-based zooming ability presentation software. You can do it online or you can have Prezi for your desktop. I'm going to just make my monitors, or not my monitor, but my page as big as I can so you guys can see this. So these are really simplistic Prezis that we've done. It's going to be a really simple desk style layout. So it just looks like you have a desk sitting here in the background with a couple of monitors on it. We're used to PowerPoint where we live in a linear world. We go left to right, top to bottom, and that's just the way we move. Prezi, we zoom in, and we pan, and we move. And yes, you can use Prezi online for free, which is kind of nice. Our animations work in Prezi, which is awesome because, like I said, Prezi is a flash-based zooming software. So when you are using it, it's important to be able to have items that are going to work really well on it. So you can either play forward and backward through Prezi, or you can click and drag. You can also scroll in and scroll out just by using your mouse wheel. So they have all these different areas below it. They have how many people have been using them, all these different areas, and you can explore other people's Prezis, which is great because if you have a hard time coming up with ideas, you can just get them from other people, basically. If you're downloading one of our animations to use in Prezi, you want to download what's called the Flash SWF file. The Flash SWF is a shockwave flash, and it's created specifically for use in Flash type environments. So in these kinds of situations, you're talking about using Adobe, you're looking at using Articulate, you're looking at using Lectora, everything along those lines. Those are all going to be based on the same Flash-based platform. If you want the background to be white, which means it's just going to have a regular white background around it, you can click the download button. But if you want to have a transparent background, which I know a lot of people love, especially with our animations, you would want to use the customizer, which is located directly beneath the previewer, and check on the box that says clear background. You'll know you have clear background selected because it'll go from being white to being a checkerboard all the way around. Click on Customize, and now your item will be created. In this Prezi, I made a Venn diagram, 2 circles, very complicated. That's about the extent of my artistic ability. I made it so our animation is sitting on top of them. So you can actually see the animation with the Venn diagram in the background. Anita, thank you for your question. You can actually use our items on Final Cut Pro and Adobe. You can use our content as long as you're not resharing our content. That's our big no-no. You don't get to take all of our content, download it, tell the world that it's yours, and turn around and sell it for $6,000 for a library. If we wanted to do that, we would have done that. So that's basically that's our big no-no without a doubt. We ask that you don't share your account with other people. We try to keep our subscriptions at a respectable rate. We do offer multi-seat discounts, so if you have other folks that you know that would want to use our content and they're in your organization, you can actually have them come in and join at a discounted rate as long as they're in your organization. This isn't like a friends and family, it's a professional courtesy only. So we're looking at schools, businesses, government organizations, things like that. We do have a Refer a Friend program. You have a link up here right next to where it says My Custom Media, and it says Refer a Friend normally. And if you go to that link, it will actually allow you to send a link to a friend, and they can join PresenterMedia. They can get a $10 discount for the first year, and you will get a free month added to your subscription. And that's an unlimited number of shares. So if you have 600 friends that all want to join PresenterMedia, if you have 600 friends and you want them to all join PresenterMedia and they all take you up on it, you would get 600 months for free. Adding interactivity to PowerPoint. When you're actually looking at our templates, I type in the search term interactive. That kind of helps me narrow it down. And so I usually recommend starting with the features that are in the current presentations that we already have. You can build on them from there, but I usually recommend at least starting with one of our templates. Thank you, Sean. We try to keep our rates as competitive as possible. We understand that every dollar counts to every single person, so we do try to stay very competitively priced to everybody. So I just downloaded one of our question and answer toolkit. This is an interactive toolkit. It's very simplistic though, compared to our other ones that we have. And all it is a very simplistic, it's a true-false based system. So if you have, let me just get it open here. If you have, we'll say just a true-false, one's right, one's wrong, and you want to be able to work on that system, all it is you type in what answer you want to be wrong and what answer you want to be right. Like I said, it's extremely simplistic. In this case, we have a big thumb in the background that's giving a thumbs up. What I did with this, and I added my own style, is I took out the thumb and I added a text box with an explanation of why it is wrong, and then an explanation of why it is right. I grabbed the animation pane, which on this one is not too bad. So you just start by finding the buttons that you actually need to use. So this one is true, and it fades out when you click the correct white button with the correct green button or the incorrect red button. So if I tie this animation, I can put it in and I can just say I want this animation to play when the white box is clicked for, let's see, red button answer 1, incorrect answer 1, incorrect. So I want to have it play with this guy, tell it to play with the previous. Theoretically, assuming that I did this right, I haven't worked in this toolkit for probably a month or two, so it's been a little while. Here we go. So when I click on true, then I have the explanation pop up. You can add a lot of interactivity to PowerPoint by using what's called triggers. Triggers are only valid for PowerPoint 2010, 11, and 13. Well, correction, even 11 doesn't have it. It's PC only. I don't know why the Mac version of PowerPoint does not have triggers, but you can't make new triggers on a Mac, but you can use existing triggers, if that makes sense. So on a Mac, you'd see these triggers, but you can't change what they are, unfortunately. Like I said, that's just, there's a few little differences between the PC and the Mac version of PowerPoint. The template that I had showed you before, the one that I had been working around with earlier this week, the interactive topics, that's what all these are, is triggers. My animation pane is a little bit scary looking, and this is only for one topic. So if I had 7 topics, you could multiply this whole group by 7. Sean, from what I know, the interactive templates will work okay on WebEx just because they're interactive using PowerPoint features. So they're not using some crazy third-party integrated software. They're using PowerPoint capabilities by itself. If I said that you had to have our add-in in order for them to work, I would say maybe it would be a little bit dicey, but since it's all just regular integrated content, I don't think it would have a problem with WebEx. If you do want to do a guinea pig run of using WebEx at some point, most of you folks look like you are already members of PresenterMedia. Download one of our interactive templates, do a WebEx, send me an invite. I'll view it and I'll tell you if I can see it or not. I'm always open to doing trial and error, especially with programs that we haven't had a lot of opportunity to use between different organizations and things like that. If you want to make your own interactive stuff, your own interactive presentation, the first thing that I always recommend is to label everything, because labels make life easier in the long run. If you go to your Home tab in PowerPoint, and this is the same for PowerPoint 2007, 10, or 13, you're going to have a button on the right-hand side that says Select, and it's this little, it just looks like the regular mouse icon that you use. Go down to where it says Selection Pane, and then you'll see these are all of the media elements that are in this particular slide. Now, I will say it's only when you're in normal slide mode. It's not, this is not including whatever's part of your layout. So if you have a background, that's technically picture 1 or whatever the case may be. You won't see that with this selection. You'd only see that if you're in your master slide view. So I went through and I named every single one of these things. So link 1, I went in and I named it topic 1, link 1. Topic 1, link 2, so on and so forth. My reason for doing this is because when I wanted to set my triggers and I wanted my collapse to be a trigger, originally all of these were labeled rounded rectangle. So that really narrowed it down for I wanted stuff to happen when I clicked rounded rectangle. So being able to differentiate was very important for me for that. You can take the same application where you are using these triggers and you can actually apply it to our crossword toolkit that we have. And you can make your crossword toolkit reveal letters or hide letters based on you clicking on different links. Michael, you can set the titles by clicking in the selection pane. You click once, you get this kind of, I don't know, sherbet color highlighted area, kind of salmon. Click a second time and you get to rename. So obviously I've named all my topics, and then my left border, the left border is just this guy right here, just this this gray area. My reason for having him is if I didn't have him and I played it, the link number 1, when it has what's called a fly-in effect, and when I click on it, it would be coming in from the middle of nowhere, and I wanted it to look like it was coming out from behind that first topic. So I put a box in, and technically I could make the box match the background so you can't see it, and it would be a very nice illusion, but that's how that works. Triggers are a feature of PC, not a feature of Mac. Opening up a selection pane in Mac, I believe, reorder objects, if you want to see if you can get into that, that might be your selection pane. It might just be a different name. So if you do the same thing, 2007, here's my rounded rectangle, number 1, and number 2. And if I want number 2 to fade in when you click on number 1, you tell it to fade in, and then see how you have effect options, timing. Usually if you have a trigger, it's going to be right here. There you go. Start on click of rounded rectangle 3, semicolon 1. That will be how you get to your triggers. They're not just this nice trigger thing up at the top, but technically you click on this and there you go. Another fun fact of 2010 is PowerPoint gave you the ability to go in and trim your videos, which you may wonder, why do I care about trimming a video? But if you are using a video that has a loop on it, or you only want it to play once, or whatever the case may be, you can tell the video to stop whenever you want it to. So I'll make this guy really small just so you can kind of see him here. This is one of our cornerstone collapse videos. So ball bounces in, hits the stack, everything falls down, basically. But then we have like 3 seconds after it's actually all done that it's just panning out. If I wanted my video to be shorter, because let's say I have something that's going to come in after the video gets done, I can make the video shorter by clicking on the playback button under my video tools and going to trim video. This is for 2010 and 13 that you can trim a video length. It's very simple. You just click on the red box and you just move it to the left until when you want the video to have stopped. Click OK, and your video is officially shorter. It's not a permanent keep, so your video length is still technically there in the background, but it's not going to play during your slideshow. So if you ever want to go back and undo that trimmed length of the video, you can certainly go back and undo that. I can say that if you want to combine your video with other features, tell your video to start automatically, and then it's going to be an animation. You see it kind of popped up there on the right. And you can have other things that come into play while the video is playing if you want. So it's kind of up to you what you end up doing with that. I do know that PowerPoint 2010, they have what's called bookmarks, which are kind of fun. If you click on any given point of the video, so it's right there right now, you go to add bookmark, and the bookmark is now a trigger. So if you wanted, say you wanted this link to come in once we hit that first bookmark, instead of the trigger being clicking on topic 1, you can actually go to, let's do something that's not animated so I don't break it. You can actually set the trigger to be on bookmark. So when the video gets to a certain point, that's when it comes in. So if you're using a video as a very large part of your presentation and you want items to come in and you don't want to have to deal with setting up all the timing on your own, this is a way that you can definitely get around that. Just play the video out, and as it gets to certain points, set bookmarks, and once you have all those bookmarks set, you can go back and do all your animations based on the bookmark timing. You can set your video to pause and play again, things like that, so you do have different capabilities. Got rid of that bookmark, so it's not used for anything now. If you click on the bookmark, you can always get rid of it, again by going to the playback button and remove bookmark, and that's all it takes. PowerPoint 2010 and 13 both support bookmarking for videos, Sean. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope to see you guys next month. There will be a link for next month's webinar, and it will be sent out later this month when we send out our newsletter, so keep an eye out on that. So if you're ever wanting to know when our upcoming webinars are going to be, they will be posted up on our newsletter, and then I will also be putting those invite links up on our website underneath of our What's New section. So you'll be able to register for the upcoming webinars at that time as well. Thank you again, everybody, and I will see you again next month.